Hi, welcome to Action for Healthy Kids mini webinar series, Do-It-Yourself Challenges for Volunteers. Today we're going to talk about creating indoor recess kits that schools can use when it's not possible to send students outside for recess. I'm Carol Muller, the Action for Healthy Kids Regional Field Manager for Colorado. And with me today is Nicole Croy, a parent volunteer on our Colorado Action for Healthy Kids team. Nicole led the effort to create indoor recess kits at her children's school here in Colorado. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you, Carol. Thanks for having me.
Now, before we hear about Nicole's project, let's talk about the value of increasing students' opportunities for physical activity throughout the school day. We all know that kids spend a lot less time being active than they used to. But did you know that our kids are spending an average of more than 7 hours in front of the TV or computer every day for non-school purposes? That's nearly an hour and a half more than it was just a few years ago. So the National Association for Sports and Physical Education, also known as NASB, recommends 60 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity daily for school-aged children. And since kids spend about 1,200 hours in school every year, it really is important that schools provide a lot of opportunities for movement. Now, study after study shows that kids who get regular physical activity experience improvements not just in their fitness levels, but also in brain function. Physical activity isn't just fuel for the body, it really is fuel for the brain. Look at what movement does for the brain. It increases learning ability, attentiveness, and the level of engagement, and it also decreases behavioral issues and absenteeism. So when kids move more, they really are better positioned to succeed in the classroom. Now, kids can get some of their 60 minutes a day through PE classes, but daily PE in many schools really is a thing of the past. So recess has become a key strategy to get kids moving more during the school day. The Robert Wood Johnson Foundation released a report recently saying that the most unexpected opportunity to boost learning lies outside the classroom, on the playground at recess. So using recess time to promote movement and get kids active provides a lot of benefits, including reduced bullying, better behavior, and it also makes for easier transitions back to the learning environment. So the goal of active recess is to get all kids moving and engaged. But, as we all know, when the weather is bad, this task is even harder. And in many schools, when the weather won't permit an outdoor recess on the playground, kids tend to spend their recess time sitting or staring at a screen, adding to that 7 hours we talked about earlier. And really, the opportunity for physical activity is wasted. But it doesn't have to be that way. Providing active indoor games and activities for inclement weather days really is a great way to boost physical activity. So now let's hear from Nicole. Nicole's going to tell us about her Do-It-Yourself challenge, creating indoor recess kits for her school, Ryan Elementary in Westminster, Colorado. So Nicole, why did your committee decide to create indoor recess kits?
Thanks, Carol. Well, last year, our Healthy Schools Committee really focused on increasing physical fitness activities in the school day. And as we evaluated and looked at the available opportunities, we really came to the conclusion that recess was the vital key time to get kids moving. As we were planning and looking, one of our teacher members mentioned that indoor recess was definitely an area of improvement. The typical indoor recess day at Ryan involves students sitting in the classroom and watching a movie on the smartboard. There was no opportunity for physical activity or fitness.
Yeah, that doesn't sound so great. So then how did you go about creating the kits?
Well, we are also a Fuel Up to Play 60 school, so we have a student leadership team that is also helping guide healthy changes at Ryan. After the Healthy Schools Committee decided that we were going to work on indoor recess, so we had identified that as an area of improvement, we took it to our student leadership team to have them help us plan what the kits should contain, what activities would be fun, and what would be possible. We also had the teacher member of our Healthy Schools Committee talk with some of her fellow teachers to kind of get us brainstorming on what the kits could look like.
Okay, I love that you included students in that planning process. So why don't you tell us what the kits do include and maybe discuss how much they cost and where you found the funding?
Sure. Well, we were very fortunate to receive a grant from Tulip to Play 60. So we set up our physical activity aspect of the grant to be focused around recess. We called it Making the Most of Recess. And part of that plan included $600 for the creation of the indoor recess kit. We needed 22 kits. We wanted to have one kit for each classroom at Ryan. So we were able to spend around $27 per kit. The kits include simple things that can be done in small areas. Chinese, jump rope, hacky sacks, juggling scarves. We also purchased a yoga ball for each classroom. And then in addition, our PE teacher created little tip cards that were laminated that included ideas for games or activities that the equipment could be used for. So the students could really lead the use of the kit. And we were able to find some giant plastic storage bags that we were able to fit everything in, so they didn't require a ton of storage and they could be neatly packed away in the classroom when not in use.
Okay. And how about obstacles or challenges? Did you run into anything while you're implementing the project?
Definitely. The greatest obstacle was that indoor recess cuts into teachers' planning time. On regular recess days, students are supervised by educational assistants on the playground. While on inclement days, students have to return to the classroom and be supervised by the teachers because we do not have enough ed assistants to have one in each classroom, and we also don't have a large enough space to keep the grades together. So this really cuts into the teachers' time for having their own lunch and planning. So we really identified that as an obstacle and decided that the kits really needed to contain activities that students could use independently or with very little teacher instruction. Another obstacle was the classroom space. All of the classrooms are set up differently and have very little open areas to really get a lot of movement in. So we had to look at what sort of activities or games are still going to get kids moving around, but in a very small space. We didn't want to have to make teachers reorganize or shift desks to be able to make enough room and then have to put it all back. We wanted to make it as simple as possible for the teachers.
It sounds like your team put a lot of thought into it and to try to make it, so that the teachers would be accepting. And can you talk about that? How did the teachers receive the kits?
Sure. Well, we are so fortunate to have a really great PE teacher at Ryan. Her name is Renee Howe, and she set up a presentation at one of the weekly staff meetings to discuss a lot of what you talked about, the effects of movement on the brain to teachers. So she really stated the case of why it's important for kids to be getting that movement every day and how it'll help teachers in the classroom setting. So she went through this really great presentation, and then we presented the teachers with the kit. And the teachers were really excited. They were very thankful to have other ideas to use on those indoor days instead of going to the movie collection. And Amanda Hill, one of our fourth grade teachers at Ryan, you can see she said that the kids love the kits because there's something for every child. She felt like there was a lot of variety in the bag. She also felt like the activities were very inclusive. The kids were jumping in to participate. Nobody was feeling left out, and so there was really great variety for that to happen in the classroom setting.
Great. And what about the students? It sounds like they did like them. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, the students love them. In fact, I know teachers have shared with me that they've gotten requests from students to use the activity kits on sunny days and not go out on the playground because they enjoy the different activities so much. One of our little first graders had said she never even knew what a Chinese jump rope was. She thought you had to have a swinging rope to be able to jump rope, and she really enjoyed learning that new activity. So the kids really enjoy them, and they want to use them, which is the most important.
Yeah, that's great. It sounds very successful. So do you have any additional tips that you would share with others that might be thinking about doing the same thing in their school?
Definitely. I would say first and foremost, like I said, involve the students, involve the teachers. Anybody that you're trying to get to make this change, you want to get their input and make sure that it's going to work for them and that they're going to be engaged in it. Also, be creative. We definitely, with the limited classroom space, had to look at, okay, how can we get kids moving but keep it condensed? So, look at different physical activities. You don't have to have a soccer game going for kids to be getting movement. Also, be creative in where you're getting your supplies to keep the cost down. We ended up making some purchases through Oriental Trading Company because we found the best rate, bulk rate on some of the items. Also, use the resources that are already there. Talk to the PE teacher. Our PE teacher had an extra supply of juggling scarves, so we were able to incorporate some of those into the kits. I think this is probably the most important tip, but demonstrating that importance of the need for activity at recess. I think, in particular with indoor recess, kids are already feeling hyperactive with any sort of weather change in the day, and so those are the days more than any that they really need to get rid of that extra energy and get that activity in so that they can better focus on classroom time. And then finally, we didn't have to, because we were so successful with the teachers using the kits, but I would say a good opportunity would be to adopt the use of the kits in your school policy, maybe your school improvement plan. Work with school administration to get that written into a policy that, activity will happen even on indoor days.
That's great, Nicole. Thanks so much for sharing your story and all those tips and your expertise for this particular do-it-yourself challenge. We wish the best of luck to you and all the volunteers there at Ryan Elementary. Sounds like you had a great team put together to put this project into action. So before closing, I'd like to mention some Action for Healthy Kids resources that could be useful when you're building your kits and when you're building support, not just for active indoor recess, but for any physical activity initiative in your community. Check out the Action for Healthy Kids e-store for things like hacky sacks and beach balls and other useful indoor recess kit supplies. You can download a copy of the Learning Connection. That's a special report from Action for Healthy Kids that's very easy to read. It summarizes the most recent research proving that healthy kids really are better learners, and it's got some great statistics in it that you can share about the connection between physical activity, healthy eating, and learning, and that you can give a copy of the report to your school leaders. And finally, check out the do-it-yourself activities in the Action for Healthy Kids Volunteer Center. We have a lot of great ideas for other physical activity projects that volunteers can initiate. And here's a great way to learn more about Action for Healthy Kids and how you can get involved with our mission and our movement. Take the Every Kid Healthy Pledge and help us create a 100,000-person movement to make all schools healthier places. Taking the pledge just takes 10 seconds. Once you've signed on, we'll show you ways, big and small, that you can turn your commitment to action. Thanks so much for your time today, and good luck with your do-it-yourself challenge.